Hello, it is I, the god of time management. My dumbass thought that because it was daylight savings time today, that meant that I got to sleep in 2 more hours instead of 1. Which means I currently have an hour before I have to be at work, and I still have to film this video because spooky season, I gotta tell you about it. So you lot get the pleasure of watching my hair dry. Well, yes, it is November 2nd when this video comes out, but you know what? We're gonna talk about my horror book and what I did on Halloween, because after all, November 2nd is the scariest day in the past 4 years. It's the day before Election Day. I spent my Halloween inside because state of the world, and it was honestly incredible. What did I do? I read Salem's Lot. But if you're new here, my name is Logan, and welcome to the Bi Book Boy. I am a chaotic bisexual who is awful at managing a schedule, and I read books. Let's get into it, guys. Okay, so Salem's Lot. Salem's Lot is Stephen King's second published work ever, and again, really good. His early stuff is kind of on fire, guy. It's funny because there's a fire on the book cover. As every bisexual on the planet is, I love vampires, namely Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but also Interview with a Vampire. It's my favorite Halloween movie. Dracula is great, all that fun stuff. I, however, have never read or seen Salem's Lot. I'm gonna watch Salem's Lot after this, but I wanted to get this out beforehand. And it's a long one, so I'm gonna wait. It was really good. I had some problems with it that might just be the 70s, but we'll get into all of that. If you don't know what Salem's Lot is, it's Stephen King's take on vampires. The main characters are Matt, a teacher, Ben, an author, Jimmy, a doctor. He's a doctor. Father Callahan, a drunk priest, and Susan, the love interest. Literally, we'll get into it. Oh, and Mark, a child. He's obsessed with comic books like me, which made me happy because a comic book boy saves the day. Now we're going to talk pros and cons. Obviously, spoilers ahead if you haven't read. Light spoilers. I'm not going to, crazy it up for you, but we'll do it. Anyway, pros. Stephen King's really good at religious horror, guys, and just creating a creepy freaking atmosphere. Obviously, because creepy is his middle name. Maybe it's Mark. Who knows? My dad's middle name is Mark. Why does that matter? I really enjoyed a lot of Father Callahan's scenes and a lot of his dialogue. There's a lot of cool discussion about how the Catholic Church in the 20th century had to adjust from being scared of demons and succubi and things that go bump in the night, and more real people things that go bump in the night, such as taxes, identity crises, poverty, things like that, things that the everyday man is terrified of. I really enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed the discussion of faith that evolved around him about how old faith is, and possibly the fact that faith is older than religion itself, which is really cool to me as a person who likes to overthink. Specifically, I love the scene when Father Callahan is doubting his faith and the vampire Barlow is the cross loses power over the vampire Barlow, Barlow is like Stephen King's Dracula. I really enjoyed that. Other pros, I liked the Dracula-esque plot things that were brought in. It was kind of like if Dracula happened in the 70s. It was really cool. I enjoyed that. It was effective. It worked really well. Also, having read Dracula, I could kind of see what was going on and appreciate the homages. Also, having been raised in a small town and understanding both the really wonderful things about that and the really terrible things about that, I love the atmosphere of the small town that Stephen King created. I think at the end, the thing that we're supposed to be scared of is the fact that this small town has not changed with the times and will not change with the times and is in fact dying because it will not change with the times. And I really love that idea. There are a lot of towns across the US that just didn't recover from the Great Depression and also didn't recover from the 60s, especially towns near my hometown in Montana that have the storefronts from the 40s that are still up. and like all kinds of wonderful things, and like the one bar that has been there since the town began and will be there until the town dies and things like that. And it creates a really interesting atmosphere of everybody knowing everybody. Eva, the woman who runs the boarding house and knows literally everybody's business because all the single people live with her, was one of my favorite characters. Kind of made me want to open a boarding house when I get old, guys. But I enjoy the aspect that, yes, the vampire is like there, but the big bad isn't the vampire. The big bad is the people's habits that refuse to die, that are from times gone by, that allow them to be opened up to and vulnerable to something like a vampire or whatever. Insert whatever in the vampire. I think the thing that Stephen King really got right about this is he used the vampire as a literary device, not just like a scary vampire. If vampires are used right, they're a creature that can be used to discuss all kinds of political commentary, such as homosexuality in Interview with a Vampire, or anti-Semitism in the original Dracula films and books. Fun fact. It's cool, and I love it, and I think Stephen King did that right. Also, Mark is probably my favorite child character I've ever read in a book. Mark is relatively young. From what I've seen of the trailer of the movie, they age him up, which kind of pisses me off because he's not supposed to be, I think he's like maybe 13, which my little brother is 13. And I really enjoy that he's young and he's a comic book nerd. And from the get-go, he is like a nerd that stands up to himself. He's not bullied. He's not going to be pushed around by anybody. When we first meet him, it's questionable. I mean, it's never addressed whether he actually is gay or not, but Stephen King paints him to be at least effeminate appearing, which is kind of cool, and I appreciate it because I was like, giving us representation. We'll discuss the other representation later. Mark is a very queer-coded character, and I think if Mark had grown up in normal circumstances, he would have grown up to be closeted. Just me projecting, and I really enjoyed that. I was scared because I thought it was going to turn into a hate crime because a bully comes after him, and he turns around and beats the living shit out of the bully and is like, you're not going to be mean to me. I'm smarter than you. And it's awesome. In previous videos, I've mentioned that I get really frustrated when young people are written as, especially like younger, like 13 and younger, are written as dumb, because they're not. Children are very sentient beings. Children are very smart, and we need to treat them as such and not write them as like baby talking when they're 10 or whatever. Which I don't think authors get. Stephen King gets that. This is like Mark is probably one of the smartest kids I've read in literature, and he's definitely the smartest character on the page, including all of the adults, and it's great. I love it. I also enjoy the sort of father-son aspect of Mark and Ben's relationship, especially in the last scene. I'm not gonna lie, when before they go into the cellar, when Ben turns to Mark and says, I love you, I started sobbing. Yeah, I started crying in a Stephen King book. That only happened to me when I read Carrie, because Carrie's sad. But I started crying in this one too. It was so good. Also, I enjoyed the idea that the scientist and the teacher, who are supposed to be the two like most logical people in the world, immediately accepted the fact that there were vampires. Immediately accepted it. It was really cool. And they were like, you know what? Yes, we're going to be scientific about this. There are vampires in the town. Now we're going to go cons. Female characters, namely Susan. This was my main problem with this book, is Susan's entire personality for most of the book is the fact that she dates Ben. That's literally all it is she likes Ben, this new dude who's come into town, and she's been raised in town. And her mother doesn't like him, and she's mad at her mother about it. That's it. It's frankly really boring until the vampire shit starts happening. And then for a second, I'm like, oh my God, hold on. Is she going to like do a 180 on us and suddenly become complex? Because she goes to investigate and is at first the one that doesn't believe. So she's like the smart one, you think? And it's really cool. And I was like, oh my God, is she gonna be our Buffy? Is this what's gonna happen? Spoilers, big spoilers. Skip ahead 30 seconds right now if you don't want spoilers. Stephen King freaking fridges her. I was so pissed off. Like, which I guess she really wasn't that complex of a character anyway. And I understand that it's the 70s, so like this wasn't a discussion yet. This book was written in the late 70s. But I just get mad when female characters are written solely for the emotional development of men. And after reading Carrie, where King wrote one of the most complex female characters in literature today, I know that he can do better, so I'm thusly disappointed when he does shit like this. And I understand that this was a callback to what's her name in the original vampire book, because that also happens there, and I get and appreciate that the scene where Ben kills Susan is literally excerpt for excerpt the scene where Van Helsing kills what's her name. But the problem is, I can't even remember the other female character's name, which is directly demonstrative of how complex that female character was. Therefore, if you're gonna do an updated version of a vampire story, update the goddamn female characters. Oy vey. Please don't do this again to me, Stephen King. I say as if he wrote this book yesterday. I can't do it anymore. My fridge is full. If you don't understand that joke, go read the essay Women in Refrigerators. It's a good time. My other main con for this book is, it's not necessarily a con, it's just an observation. Barlow and Straker, the two like that are presented as the main bad guys, that for a while you're like, are they both vampires? And then you find out that it's Barlow is the vampire and Straker is his human servant familiar. Hold up, I'm gonna sneeze. I didn't sneeze, damn it. No, it's not coming. Okay, fine. For the first part of the book, before you figure out, like the first 100 pages, which is kind of a slow burn, before you figure out what's going on, they're just, maybe this is me projecting, but they're very queer-coded. And like, don't get me wrong, I love a queer-coded villain. I love a subtly queer-coded villain, which is why I want to be the villain or the slutty best friend that dies in a horror film someday. But like, Stephen King was not subtle about this at all. Like, these are two European men that say ciao and kiss people on the cheek, dress very flamboyantly in leather, and own a goddamn furniture store. He might as well have just been like, and one of them's a drag queen on the side. Oh my god, can you imagine a movie about vampire drag queens? You guys, let's make it. Also, now that I think about it, this was probably done on purpose, but the way that he describes Barlow, the vampire, reminds me so much of Peter in the mockumentary What We Do in the Shadows. Which, you know, now that I think about it, Peter is in the basement of the house, so Peter's probably supposed to be, like, making fun of Barlow from this book. But I just could not picture Peter from What We Do in the Shadows, and I kept laughing, and thusly, it was very hard to take this villain seriously, specifically for that, just for myself. If you haven't seen What We Do in the Shadows, go watch What We Do in the Shadows. It is so funny. It is so funny. Lastly, I love the fact that it just ends. That might be a con for you, but spoiler alert, there's not a lot of resolution in this. Like, there's definitely a climax and resolution, but Stephen King just frickin' ends it. It's not neatly wrapped up in a bow the way that, like, Carrie or The Shining or Pet Sematary is not neatly wrapped up in a bow. Pet Sematary is begging for a sequel, and I'm surprised they didn't make one. Yeah, it's really good. I love it. Anyway, that's my review of Stephen King's Salem Lot. Before I go, announcement time, because I'm obviously dressed for an important professional announcement. I'm joining a third book club called the Buy Book Club. It's the channel Emily Reads Books and the channel I Read Today, and I have been instant message. We've been DMing on Instagram, and we've decided to create a Buy Book club in which we read bisexual book characters and talk about them. The first video is going to be posted probably the last week of November because the first week we're reading is November. So look out for that. It's going to be fun. I'm so excited. I'll keep tagging them and mentioning them in my other videos to hype it up. It's going to be a good time. Anyway, that's all I got for you now. If you made it to the end of this video, thanks for sticking around and helping out. And I'm going to down this coffee now and go to work and probably put some clothes on. Make sure to like and subscribe and ring that notification bell and share my video for the YouTube algorithm so you can get my videos whenever I decide to post them. Thanks for joining the family. Until next week, this has been the Bye Book Boy, and I'm saying bye.